Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for next week to 10 days for today's second video. I'm about to take us around 25th of July actually, so we're going into the final week of the month with the week to 10 day updates now, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles, which will take us towards the end of the month, can you believe? CFS as well, that will take us well into August, so we're beginning to move in towards the late summer period now with the video updates. And we'll see what the models have to say about weather for the next week to 10 days and beyond very shortly. Just to say that we released a quick video looking at the weather for this coming weekend in terms of the Open, which should be taking place at Northern Ireland, and also the Latitude Festival. If you've got interest or concerns about those events or any other events happening from Thursday to Sunday, then have a look at the forecast, see what's going to be going on. Right, so we'll start off by one last time looking at what's happening in America. So, of course, we had Tropical Storm Barry that we talked about a lot last week. It did very, very briefly, only for around an hour or two. It ticked up to Category 1 hurricane status. It's moved well inland now. It's gone up to Arkansas, left Louisiana, gone up to Arkansas. There it is just there. And it is now a tropical depression. So it's giving, this is tropical depression, Barry. It's giving maximum sustained winds of only 25 miles an hour. It has a central pressure of 1,008 millibars. It's moving northwards at 9 miles an hour. And it's still getting a lot of heavy rain, but this system is going to carry on moving northwards. It will go post-tropical later today, and that's pretty much going to be the end of it. Otherwise, everything looking quite clear and calm in the tropical Atlantic at the moment, in the tropics, in the Gulf of Mexico. Remember the other day we had that area of thunderstorms and showers indicated by a yellow X. That was in this sort of area. But that didn't come to anything. It only had a 10% chance of becoming a tropical storm. So that's disappeared off the chart there, and it basically looks like going into a quieter phase at the moment. But of course, it's early on in the storm and hurricane season. Only the 15th of July, the hurricane season really reaches its peak in September and October. So we shall keep monitoring, keep looking over the next few weeks to see whether we get any more storms and hurricanes developing. But it does look as though Barry is a decaying feature from now onwards. So this is how the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles are looking for the next couple of weeks. I'm looking at London today, so let's just change the colour. The red line here is a 30-year upper air temperature average for London. We're starting off close to or a little bit above average at the moment. We're going to keep temperatures pretty close to long-term averages over the next week, really. We've got the dates along the bottom of the chart, so that's 21st of July just there. That's like taking us to the beginning of next week, really. So keeping the temperature quite close to average then, but it does look as though through the course of next week, which is this period just here, we may well be seeing signs of the weather becoming warmer. So, or maybe even hotter. We do see that several of these ensemble members are going up to 15 Celsius or above at 850 HPA. So that's enough to get you to 30 degrees in the middle of July. We could well see some hotter conditions coming along through the course of next week, but it may be pretty volatile. It may be quite unstable. In terms of precipitation, well, a lot of dry weather to come actually over the next few days. Just gradually turn more unsettled over the end of the week into the weekend to the start of next week. Then fairly dry through to the end of the ensemble graph, really. Remember, this is for London, so it's the far southeastern part of the country. But again, with this pickup in the temperature, things might get quite thundery through the course of next week. More on that very shortly. Temperature anomalies from the 15th to the 23rd of July are coming out a little bit warmer than average for the UK and for Ireland, a little bit above average across many central, northern and western parts of Europe. Actually, it does look like a rather warmer week coming up. I would expect these to start trending hotter, warmer over the next few days. Precipitation anomalies, again, very close to average. Not much coming on from a temperature and precipitation anomaly perspective. We just remain very, very close to our long-term averages. And that's how GFS looks on Thursday then. So rather cool and showery really on Thursday. Having said that about temperatures and precipitation being average, it is going to be rather cool, showery day on Thursday. And then on Friday through to Saturday, we bring this feature in from off the Atlantic. It doesn't look like much, this trough feature here, but it might well bring some really quite wet weather to particularly parts of England and Wales actually Friday night into Saturday morning. Could be one to watch. It might bring some quite heavy thundery rain, our heaviest rain that we've had down in the south potentially for quite a few weeks. That gets out of the way for the course of Saturday, and then high pressure starts to take over. So as we go through to Sunday, we've got this build of pressure developing over and to the south of the country. And that high pressure then starts to reach northwards on Monday. It's taking us to a week's time. Monday, 22nd of July, we've got the ridge of high pressure through Central Europe reaching northwards. Low pressure is becoming stuck out in the Atlantic, and we begin to draw up some very warm, if not quite hot air from the south. That's Tuesday. So again, we're in a southerly flow. We've got low pressure out to the northwest, got high pressure to the east-northeast. We're dragging up the wind from a southerly direction. The upper air temperatures are looking hot there through the early part of next week. Remember, this is Tuesday 23rd of July, so it's just over a week's time. I've got 15 Celsius ice firm covering England and Wales and moving up towards Scotland. So if you're up to 15 Celsius at 850 HPA, but it will normally be hot enough to get to 30 degrees. Yeah, it does also next week, particularly early next week, might turn hotter. That's Wednesday. Again, looking pretty hot with drawing up the air still from a southerly direction, but starting to turn quite volatile with this area of low pressure then deepening by day 10, which is Thursday the 25th of July, deepening with this low pressure to the southwest of Ireland. The upper air temperatures are hot. We're actually dragging up a 20 Celsius ice firm into the southeastern corner. But you would expect widespread showers and storms to be breaking out with that low pressure moving in from the west. That low pressure then gets whipped up into quite a significant feature, actually. This is Friday 26th of July, just a little bit beyond day 10, due to the energy within the atmosphere from the heat to our east and the cooler air that's feeding in from the west. So what's going on there is that you've got the hot air being drawn up from the south, of course, on the eastern side of the low, but then you're actually drawing down quite cool air from the north on the western side of the low. Big temperature contrast, and that fuels this low pressure into quite a significant feature. You'll see pretty tightly packed isobars around this area of low pressure. Could be seeing gusts of wind up to 40-50 miles an hour there, close to those Irish Sea coasts. And also, of course, pushing away all of that heat and humidity very rapidly. So those hot upper air temperatures are being shoved off into central parts of Europe. And of course, the transition from that hot air to the cooler Atlantic air might include some sort of significant thundery outbreak. We are well overdue a major thundery outbreak for this summer. We haven't really had one yet. So perhaps this will be it. We should have to wait and see. Going beyond that, just going to quite a cool, unsettled spell then right through to month's end. So as far as we can go, it's actually to the final day of July with this GFS run now. Takes us to Wednesday 31st of July, and we look cool, maybe very cool you would say, and unsettled too. Not a particularly inspiring chart as we begin to move out in towards August, but of course that's over 2 weeks away, so a lot can change before we get to that. This is the GEM. Again, Thursday, rather cool, rather showery conditions. And then we go into Friday, from Friday to Saturday, this area of low pressure developing just here. It doesn't look like much, but there is forecast with quite a bit of heavy rain associated with that low. Of course, the exact track will be important as to where that heavy rain is. So we won't know until a little bit later in the week. But it might give some quite significant wet weather Friday night to Saturday morning across some parts of the country. Then over the weekend, rather showery in the north and west, but pressure starting to build to our south and east. We're having a go at putting up some hot air there with the GEM on Tuesday, 23rd of July, just over a week away. But these areas of low pressure actually keep that hotter air at bay, really, with the GEM. So we're a little bit closer with the lows, and the hot air really is restricted to France, Germany, and the low countries on the GEM. And we remain sort of on the cool side of these areas of low pressure. So probably just rather cool and showery through next week. Big difference, actually, between the GEM and the GFS. What's the ECM got to say about all this? Well, this is the chart from the ECMWF for Thursday. Again, rather cool, rather showery on Thursday. And then Friday to Saturday, here comes that trough of low pressure that could bring a bit of a soaking to some parts of the country on Friday night and into Saturday morning. Of course, we're very dry down in the south, so we would hope that this low pressure would be affecting southern areas where we need this significant rain. But again, the exact track is going to be quite critical. Over the weekend and into the early part of next week, gradually building up the heights to our south and southwest. Although, again, this low pressure, similar to the GEM, is closer to us through the early part of next week. And particularly for Scotland and Northern Ireland, will probably bring significant wet weather and maybe fairly strong winds as well. Although for England and Wales, it clearly is turning drier and warmer through the early part of next week. Then we get through to the middle of next week, and it all goes rather slack, really, with the ECM. Certainly for the south, I would have thought it's pretty warm. There's the upper air temperature, not as hot as what the GFS is showing, but we are very close to pulling up some really hot air there through the middle part of next week. So it's just going to be one to watch. That's kind of like a blend, really, of the GFS and the GEM. So next week is a bit up for grabs, but there is the chance, we talked about this in videos last week, there is the chance that for a while, anyway, for 2 or 3 days next week, going into the last week of July, we may well get some hot weather. But if we do, it is likely to be volatile. It's likely to quite quickly blow up into thunder, I would have thought, and then cool down again from the Atlantic. Again, there is still no sign of a sustained spell of hot weather such as we had last summer. Let's have a look at the options that are on the table within the ECM ensembles today. Lots of them to go through. So this is from the Icelandic Met Office, of course. These are the options that we've got for day 10, which is the 25th of July. We have 13 members of the ECM ensembles with a big area of above average heights over the country and also ridging north. Jetstream is probably going to be doing something a bit like that. So that's a mainly dry and quite warm, maybe even fairly hot scenario with those 13. There's 11, including the operational and the control. So these 13 would be like in line with the GFS operational run that was just looking at. There's 11, including the ECM operational and control run. The operational run is the run we're just looking at, that have the above average heights further south and southeast of us, below average heights in the north. And so just a little bit more influence from the Atlantic and from the jet stream means that the unsettled conditions are in the north and the west, and the driest, warmest conditions in the south and the southeast. There's 10 with a trough of below average heights, low pressure just to the north of Scotland, above average heights to our southwest. Obviously, that's a more unsettled and cooler scenario. There's 7 with above average heights to our east and below average heights to our west. Now that could be a very warm, maybe even pretty hot scenario, but it could be unsettled. It could be developing thunderstorms. So again, that probably in line with what the GFS is hinting at for around that day 10, day 11 period. 6 have below average heights over the top of the country, so obviously that's an unsettled and relatively cool scenario. That would be bringing in a wind from the northwest, and with low pressure over the country, that would be quite cool and unsettled. And then there's 4 with this huge ridge of high pressure from the Azores high up to the Scandinavian high, with low pressure kind of like out in the Atlantic, jet stream doing something a bit like that. So they're probably the hottest and driest of the scenarios. There's only 4 of them, but they would be hinting probably at a little bit of a heat wave. So there's a lot to play for next week. There are a lot of different options on the table for day 10. 25th of July. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. This is taking us to the 30th of July, almost to the very end of the month. We have 21 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure out to our west, probably some sort of trough through here, so that could be quite a coolish, unsettled scenario. And then there's 15 again with high pressure even further away in middle of the Atlantic, low pressure as a trough in over Scandinavia. Obviously that is quite a cool, unsettled situation as well. And then there's 15 that look more settled. They're ridging high pressure in from the west. Jet stream is probably up there somewhere. So those 15 are the driest, warmest scenarios for day 10. So it looks like we may get some sort of hotter weather through the course of next week, but it probably breaks down and turns cooler by the time we get through to the end of the month. Let's just have a look at CFS-V2 before we go. These are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. The first weekly period takes us from the 15th to the 21st of July. The coming week we'll have above average heights, quite weak area of above average heights, but it is there to our east, below average heights to the west. So relatively warm, but probably turning quite showery, especially for more northern western parts of the country. Week 2 is the 22nd to 28th of July, with above average heights then developing across much of northern, central and western Europe. Jet stream goes up there. That hints that it becomes much warmer, probably even hotter through that week, 22nd, 28th of July. Week 3 looks like this. It's the 29th of July to the 4th of August, with the above average heights again ridging through the UK from the east to the west. Jet streams up there. So with that one, you would expect a continuation of quite dry and very warm weather. And then week 4, again, hinting at a bit of a change. This is the 5th to the 11th of July. Above average heights being pushed back into eastern and northeastern parts of Europe. Below average heights up towards Greenland. Implies that the jet stream is probably coming back in off the Atlantic. So probably turning cooler and a little bit more unsettled then. Temperature anomalies in the week ahead, the 15th to 21st of July, warmer than average. Week 2, temperature anomalies look hot. Look at that. It's the 22nd to the 28th of July. And we're kind of like going up to 2 to 3 degrees above average, which is going to be hot in July. If we get to 3 degrees above average in July, then it's going to be genuinely hot weather, up to 30 degrees or more during that week, if the CFS is right. Week 3, I should say, is 29th of July to the 4th of August. That is also significantly warmer than average. A little bit less so compared to week 2, but nevertheless still kind of like 1 to 2 degrees above average, so still pretty hot in that week. And then week 4, well, it's still a bit above average actually, but it is lowering. So we're sort of going closer to average on the scale. Obviously a little bit of a cool down beginning to take place there in week 4 from the 5th to the 11th of August. Precipitation finally, the week ahead, the 15th to 21st of July, close to or possibly hinting at being a little bit wetter than average, particularly so for western parts of the country in the week ahead. Week 2, obviously with that big ridge of high pressure building, not just across the UK, but across much of northern Europe, it's going drier than average from the 22nd to 28th of July. That could be genuinely dry, hot week if CFS is right. Week 3 is the 29th of July to the 4th of August. Goes closer to average, implying some sort of change is taking place, although it could just be that the model is losing the signal. And then in week 4, the 5th to the 11th of August, we are again close to average, but probably the model has lost its signal as it gets to week 4, as it usually does. So for the rest of this week, we're looking at a fair amount of dry weather to start off with, becoming more showery later in the week, and it could actually be quite wet Friday to Saturday for some parts of the country. Next week is quite an interesting week within the model output. We have a blend of ideas, a range of ideas, but the potential is there for some pretty hot weather for a while anyway next week. Probably Wednesday, Thursday next week could turn quite hot. But we did see that if it does, it's likely to break down quite quickly into thunderstorms and low pressure coming in from off the Atlantic. And then the end of July, the last days of the month, if you like, and the beginning of August, they really are up for grabs, I think, and we could have several different options then as we get through to the end of the month and into the beginning of August. So we shall see. It will reveal itself over the next few days. But of course, the main thing I think that we'll be focusing on in the videos, certainly this week, is going to be what's happening next week. And will we get those significantly higher temperatures next week? We shall see. Right, that's all for now. We'll be back tomorrow with another week 10-day video update. And of course, tomorrow we've got the ECMWF 30-day look ahead for the UK and for Europe as well. So there'll be your videos up tomorrow. I think we'll probably do something for Camp Festival as well tomorrow. And maybe some more events that will be taking place over that last weekend of July. So, yeah, that's all for now, though. And thanks for watching.